Hello! Welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. On this episode, we're going to be making ice cream, but we're going to do it without an ice cream machine. You don't have to have an ice cream machine. You don't have to have an ice cream maker to make ice cream. You just have to have a strong will and willingness to go forward. Okay? Come a little closer, and I'll show you what we're going to use to make this wonderful mint chocolate chip ice cream without a machine. Now on our ingredients, very simple. I have here 2 cups of milk and 2 cups of heavy cream. And this is going to make slightly over 1 quart once we get the other ingredients mixed in there, and when it freezes it also expands a little. So it's a good amount of ice cream. Here I have a little over 1/2 of a cup of sugar. In fact, you could do 1/2 of a cup plus 1 tablespoon, and that's just dead on correct. Right here, this is 1 cup of chocolate chips. Now I like to use the semi-sweet morsels. I think they make a really good tasting mint chocolate chip ice cream, and that slightly bitter effect of it really contrasts well with the sweetness of the ice cream. So give that a try. Right here I have 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. This is 1 teaspoon of mint extract. And here I have 1/2 of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now the vanilla really doesn't shine through on the flavor very much. However, it is very associated with the flavor of cream, and it goes well with cream. So it's just going to enhance the flavor of your ice cream is all it's going to do. It's going to make it a little more rich. People won't really notice that flavor in there over the mint. Okay, now we want to move on to our first step, which is cooking off this milk. But first let me explain how we're going to do this without a machine. You're going to need a pair of bowls. Let me move these out of the way. Now on your bowls, let me look back here, I have 2 bowls. One is roughly half of the size of the other. See how it nests down inside of there, and I have a good 1.5 inches all the way around on that? That's exactly what you're looking for. In fact, it sets about 1.5 inches below the top of this, so when it floats up in its brine solution, it'll set just like this. And what we're going to do is just use ice and salt and make a brine solution in this larger bowl and set this right down into it. For my ice, I'm just using plain old ordinary ice cubes right out of my own refrigerator. So I'll be using something like that. You can go with ice that you purchase if you want. These cubes are usually a little large, so I'm going to break them down a little bit by banging this bag on my sink just a bit. Okay, now let's start with cooking our milk, and this is an important part. When we cook that milk, it changes the flavor. This is called scalding. And scalding the milk, used to be done to basically pasteurize it or make it safe to use. This is no longer the case. So what we're going to do now, placing our milk in this pan, I'm going to bring this up in temperature over a medium to medium-high heat, and we're going to take it up to 180 degrees. Now milk boils at 185, so don't let it go over that. We don't want to boil the milk, we only want to scald it. And by heating it, it also allows me to dissolve the sugar better, and I don't get any kind of a grittiness in my ice cream in the finished product. So this is just a really healthy step to do. I'll bring my temperature down here. There we go, got a medium-high heat. Now let's change views, and we're going to watch this thing heat up. Now as I'm heating my milk, I also want to stir it gently. So what I'm going to do is to use a simple rubber spatula. You can use a wooden spoon for this also, this works well. Gently and occasionally stir your milk. You don't have to sit down there and stir it constantly, but you want to move it around at least every 2 to 3 minutes. And this is while it's heating. This will prevent it from skinning over. If it forms a skin, it's going to make a real mess for you. You don't want to deal with that, okay? So, just occasional stirring. That's all we have to do. Now I'm going to put this aside. We're going to wait for our temperature to rise on this from where it's at down here. It's slightly over 100 degrees. I'm going to take it up right about here where it's around 280 degrees. Or excuse me, sorry about that, 180 degrees. Do not take it over 180 degrees. 200 would ruin it. Okay, I've just now reached 180 and I'm dropping the heat. So, you notice the steam coming up? There's foam around the edge. There's a distinct change in the odor of the milk, and that's exactly what I'm looking for when I'm making ice cream. Now, I've removed my thermometer, put in the sugar, and if you notice I was teaching you about that froth on the edge. That's how you know if you don't have a thermometer, okay? Also, you can use what's referred to as a cooking thermometer or a chef's thermometer. Those are very common, and it's a good thing to have in the kitchen. Well, our temperature has now come down below 90 degrees, and this is a good time to go ahead and start putting in the other ingredients. So I'm going to add in that peppermint extract. I'm also going to switch to a whisk just to make this a little easier. The vanilla. Again, that just hides in it, but brings out that cream flavor so well. And the salt. I'm going to pull my cream out of the refrigerator now. Remember, you want to keep that cold so that you can further bring this temperature down right here. Put that in there. And pull out what I can with my spatula. There we go. Now I'm going to need a little bit more accurate thermometer than that first one I was using. So I'm going to use my regular cooking thermometer here. I'm checking my temperature. Now it's 68.7 degrees, and that's a good temperature. It's actually falling a little. That's a good temperature. I don't have to worry about my chocolate chips melting at that temperature. So what I want to do now is pull those chocolate chips out of the freezer. And set them to the side. And I'll take the bowl that I'm going to be chilling the ice cream in. I just want to pour this mixture right down into that bowl. Now, at this time, if you want to make this green, then feel free to add in some food coloring. And actually, I'm feeling a moment of inspiration, so I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, you do not have to have green food coloring in this, okay? But a lot of people kind of associate the mint chocolate chip ice cream as something that comes out green, because that's what you always see when you're at the grocery store. When you purchase that, they put it in there. So what the heck? Let's make ours a little bit green also. There, I have a beautiful green color. I can go ahead and place my chocolate chips in there. Now, the next thing I need to do is to simply prepare a brine. This is going to be the bowl that I chill the ice cream in. And the brine, as we mentioned before, is a mixture of ice and salt. I'm going to go ahead and put some of this in the bottom. Get started here. And put some of the salt that we have over the top. That way I get a melting condition started. I can go ahead now and place this bowl on top of that. From here, I just need to build this up a little bit. So I'm going to be adding in some ice along the sides, very gently. I'm just going to keep filling this up. And I'll layer it with ice, salt, as I go around. What we're going to do is just keep an eye on this, and we're going to kind of do a time-lapse situation. I'm not going to film just watching a steady bowl doing nothing. But what we'll do is about, like I said, every 5 minutes, I'm going to come in and give it a nice simple stir, just like so. Now, you don't have to use a whisk. You can also stir this with a spatula or wooden spoon. I find for this part, the spatula works really well, especially after it's starting to get to where it's freezing up. That is when it works best of all, because you're going to have to scrape that frozen ice cream away from the bowl and displace it with some of the wet that is in the center. So, really neat way of making ice cream. So simple, isn't it? See, you don't need an ice cream machine. It has now been 5 minutes. So gently, and see those chips are starting to freeze to the bottom. I can feel that down there. I'm breaking them free. There we go. And that'll probably happen again. Just be prepared for it. There we go. Oh, they're mixing well. So, I want to push down the sides to remove any material that could have frozen. It has been another 5 minutes. The outside of the outer bowl is completely iced over. And down in here, of course, those chips are sticking on the bottom again. But that's okay. That's not a problem. Because that means there is some freezing action against that edge that's happening. So they're wanting to stick. Okay. We're at 5 minutes. Now if you notice, I have a spoon handy also. Those chips are really starting to stick badly on the bottom. So I've got a spoon to kind of break those loose. There we go. And now that we are getting a good freezing action, see on the side of the bowl I'm getting frozen cream there. This is where it matters. We're going to have to start stirring a little more regular. So we are now at the process where it is actually starting to freeze. Getting some ice crystals. That's excellent. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep stirring this. But I'm going to stir it now about once every minute or so. Yeah, good action there. Also, as I mentioned earlier, a whisk works really well for this. But after about halfway through the freezing, it gets to where the whisk is going to start bending too much. So, we're going to go ahead and pause the video for another 5 minutes, and you'll see the next time lapse. Now, it hasn't been quite 5 minutes yet, but what I wanted to do, before I do it, I got to give this a stir, because I'm stirring this every about 1.5 to 2 minutes now. I want to get some temperature readings. And the first one I want to get is right here in our cream. So we're down, that shows 27.5 degrees. Okay, so rather cold. Let me get a temperature reading on our brine here. It's 10.6 degrees and falling. So basically I have a very cold brine, which is the reason I'm getting this nice freezing action. That's actually just how ice cream makers work. All they do is churn the ice cream, which means to turn it around and move it. And the more you do that, the less lumpy it'll be. And it allows the liquid to come in contact with the metal surface of the bowl, thereby freezing more of it as you stir it. So we slowly get this beautiful, soft, smooth texture. So, there's our temperatures on it. It's giving you some idea of what's happening. Keep stirring and stir frequently now. Our ice cream is coming along. We've now been 30 minutes on this, and look at this. Isn't that cool? So, that tells you there's success, okay? You just got to keep it up until it is as thick as it needs to be. And I know it's awful tempting just to spoon it out when it's like this, but go ahead and let it finish forming its texture. It gets better as it goes. Get down in that brine. Here we go, 5 more minutes. We have now arrived at our 40-minute mark. If you'll notice, the ice cream is starting to hold shape pretty well. Just keep turning it about once every 1 to 2 minutes. Now, at this point, if you have a heavy whisk, you can run a heavy whisk through this and it will fine it. And what that means is it's just going to take out some of that coarse graininess and make it a little bit smoother. Well, you caught me. Went ahead and did it. Ran that whisk through it to give me just a little bit better texture. Uh-oh. Well, here we are. We're up on about that 45-minute mark, aren't we? It's got quite thick. I'm stirring it about once every minute now. As you saw, I went ahead and hit it real quick with a whisk. You don't have to do it a whole lot that way. And that will, for a moment, make it seem a little bit softer, but it'll refirm quickly. Now when you get to this point where it'll actually hold stiff peaks like that, you can take this at this point and go ahead and place it in your freezer. There you have it. Very simple. Ice cream, but without an ice cream maker. So, a couple of bowls, a little bit of your time, and suddenly you're ready to just have a good time. I'm going to reach over here and get a spoon. Now, I'm just going to try this. It's wonderful, beautiful ice cream mixture. There we have a perfect soft serve ice cream. Beautiful. Give it a try. Crunchy chocolate chips. Love that. That's a treat at any time. You'll make some happy faces with this. So simple. Wow. I'll tell you what, thank you. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today. Thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't, please do subscribe. You have a good day. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today, the show where you can get great recipes and the best techniques are taught. Please subscribe to Texas Cooking Today, where you will always find something hot and ready to eat.